Rise and shine. Welcome back to Light Me Up. I'm Brandon Bryant, and I'm so grateful to be back with you this week. Let me take a quick moment to just say thank you to all of you who have sent messages of encouragement. It really means a lot to me, and you know who you are, so thank you. Remember to stick around until the end of the episode for my vibe of the week and hear what's been musically on repeat in my head. Today, I want to highlight something a little different but deeply powerful. I'll be sharing with you some life lessons from Roger Federer's 2004 commencement address at Dartmouth. In that speech, Roger shares some truths about effort, resilience, and life's bigger picture. And though he spoke to the graduates, I hope that these lessons resonate with every person navigating change or uncertainty. So brew your tea, settle in, and let's unpack what we can learn from a legendary athlete turned humble teacher. So the first thing he covered, effortlessness is a myth. Roger reminds us that no one is truly effortlessly great. It's fueled by hard work. He had to work very hard to make it look easy, as he says in his speech. Here's a question for you. Why do you think our culture celebrates effortless success? And what's the risk in that? Lots of times, on the face of it, we think that the folks who are the most successful at whatever their craft or practice is came to them super easily, when often that's not the case at all. We blind ourselves with a vision of effortless success as if it came and just dropped out of the sky. That's not the way life really is. If we look at ourselves on social media, we take opportunities to curate the experience so that folks can see the best and brightest versions of ourselves, when at times they don't see the tears and the struggle that comes along with becoming great or even good at something. We don't see the hours of practice and dedication, the setbacks, the frustrations, and otherwise that bring people to their most successful space in life. I mean, think about this. I'm no master chef by any stretch of the imagination, but I look at top chefs like Eric Pear or Gordon Ramsay and think, gosh, they can just do this stuff in their sleep, while failing to remind myself that I'm seeing the polished, trained, and curated version of these folks. For them, I'm sure it took decades of laborious work to get to the upper echelon of their craft. We don't see the nicks, the cuts, the bruises, late nights, and the decisions that they had to make to get to where they are. We see the polished final package to us in a very curated sense from these pillars and paragons of culinary excellence, or in Roger's case, a champion tennis star. But Brandon, what if I'm feeling discouraged because success looks instant for others? The risk in this mindset of thinking that success just comes instantly to people is that we try to put ourselves in a situation where we're tripping all over ourselves trying to live up to a standard of excellence that took people years and decades to sharpen. My advice to you would be to take a deep breath and assess where you are, what your abilities are, and what access you might have to develop, to shape, and learn and grow. Are there mentors that you can look toward who have put in the time required to get to where they are? Ask them about the times where they struggled a bit to get to the place that they are today. Ask them about who inspired them to take the path that they took, what struggles they may have faced in getting to where they are. It's okay to not have to reinvent the wheel. Someone already took the time to figure it out, so you don't have to. Understand that you are an individual who has your own unique talents, abilities, and qualities that you bring to the table. You are a unique individual with your own perspective, and that's going to ultimately shape how you develop going forward. We spend way too much time looking at where someone else is, knowing full well that we're never going to really be them. And guess what? They're never really going to be you either. You put yourself on a path of trying to live up to unrealistic expectations for yourself based on your own capacity to do what you want to do based on what you see somebody else doing and accomplishing. It's really not healthy for you. Release yourself from the expectation that you have to have everything perfect right out of the box. Right now, I'm reminded of James Earl Jones, who was once one of the most recognizable voices of our lifetime. Did you know he had a severe stutter and was almost mute growing up? And he had to face and tackle the challenge of finding his own way and his own voice through repetition and reading aloud in class. This didn't come naturally to him, but he worked through it and worked tirelessly to do so. Again, he's one of the greatest voices we've had in our history. But if somebody looking on the outside saw him and only knew his voice and only knew him as the voice of Darth Vader, and saw that he could just say anything or read the phone book and it would sound perfect, he didn't get there automatically. It took time and dedication and understanding, frustration, putting himself out there before he became the person that we know of today. You know, the other thing that we do is we get discouraged and stop ourselves from pursuing our dreams because we look at the greatness of others and expect that we should be right there right now. That is a recipe for disaster. This stuff takes hard work. It takes time. It requires your patience. Know that it's okay to take your time. There's value in this process. Trust me. So, how do we honor effort in our own stories? Point number 2, it's only a point. Even Roger Federer lost points, but mental resilience matters. He says when you're playing a point, when it's behind you, it's behind you. In life, setbacks happen, but the real win is moving toward clarity and focus. Not every loss is final. Let go and reset. There was a point in my life I faced a moment of failure and setback and that I held on way longer than I needed to, and still to this day kind of do. I've been holding on to the fact that I did not finish school the way that I wanted to. Certain subjects came easily to me, like language, but others, like math, terrible. School did not come easy to me as it may have others. And so at times I struggled to find my footing. And as a result, I was holding myself to a standard that we set in this country that everyone and their mom needs to go to school in order to be successful. And on the face of it, if you looked at me today, you would see someone who really has found his stride and found success and is thriving in this wonderful city I get to call home. But the reality is, it took a lot of hard work to get here. The other thing this so called setback did was it made me constantly compare myself to someone else and where they are in life. And it brought me to a place of depression and feeling like I'm less than the other person because I didn't have this piece of paper that society says is the mark of someone accomplishing something great. And it can be, but it's not necessarily the path for everyone. And holding myself to that expectation really hurt for me. It made me feel like garbage, actually. But I had to take a moment and find the confidence within to put one foot in front of the other and find my path forward. The thing I like to say sometimes is it takes more than one way. There's more than one way, rather, to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You might start with jelly first. Others might start with peanut butter. But at the end of the day, what results is a fully formed sandwich, and it's no less delicious. Sorry for the folks that have peanut allergies. In other words, not everyone's journey through this life is going to come at you the same way as the other person. But as long as you stick to it, if it's something you truly desire and you want, you can make it through. The things that help me reset after an emotionally tough situation are honestly, sometimes I sit in my room and just need to check out. I want quiet, I need calm, soothing energy, and space to just kind of sit with my thoughts. And on other occasions, I want to surround myself with friends and loved ones who will lift me up and be listening ears and supportive and understanding and maybe give advice if I need sometimes. Taking a walk to find clarity is something I know other people benefit from. Whatever that thing is that you can do in moments where you're feeling frustrated and at a crossroads or a roadblock, do those things to take care of yourself first, to tap into what will bring you back to reality and a place where you can find resilience. And I know this is easier said than done, but we have to make this a practice for ourselves. Another question you might have is, how have you grown in your relationship to failure or making mistakes? The reality is, I'm struggling still to work through my relationship with failure and making mistakes. We're on the struggle bus together. But what I'm also learning is that failure and mistakes allow us the opportunity to course correct, to adjust, to adapt, to find new routes and solutions to get through our desired destination. Because oftentimes we don't learn a whole lot from our successes, and that's true. We learn much more from our failures and our challenges. They allow us the opportunity to flex and grow muscles that we didn't even know we had. I mean, think about it this way. If you go into the gym and you start pumping iron, when you leave a day or two later, you'll discover that delayed onset muscle soreness that they taught us about in PE class. This means you're developing. This means you're growing. Those muscles require some resistance in order to grow. And when you're trying something new, it's going to mean that stretching and growing is a part of life. It's a part of the process. Thinking about Roger Federer, this statistic blew my mind. Did you know that he only made 54% of the points that he ever took throughout his entire career? We still think of him today as one of the greatest players that's ever played the game of tennis. Think about that. He only made just over half of the points in a given match. That's remarkable. So let's take stock in the fact that you will not get every single thing you attempt to accomplish correct 100% of the time. Not even Roger Federer can live up to that expectation. Recognize that the point you did not make is now behind you. As Roger reminds us, we have to take that setback and not allow it to hinder us from looking forward to the next point that's right in front of us and attack that next point with more vigor and verve for the next point and the next point after that. This is what's most important. Where in your life have you faced a point or a struggle that you didn't break through? The fact of the matter is, you have more opportunities in front of you than what's behind you. What's past is past. Don't linger there. We get so hung up on the thing that was, and that prevents us from seeing what is and clouds our vision of looking ahead to what can be. Here's lesson number 3 from Roger. Life is bigger than the court. Here's the key. We are more than our job or accolades. I'm often struck by how many times we're out in social situations where we have to present ourselves to other people. We start with our careers first. Why do we do that? We are so much more than our jobs, our positions, our titles, our degrees. We are fully actualized human beings with a life beyond the court. We have feelings and opinions. Maybe you're curious about something esoteric, or you're really someone who's fascinated by trains or pigeons, like some folks I know in my life, or you're like me who geeks out on watching infrastructure videos on YouTube. It's true. We can show up authentically in those ways too, and not necessarily feel the need to lead with our career. Sometimes that can be boring. It's also not the most interesting thing about you. How about trying this on for size? The next time somebody asks you what you do, you can start with, "Hey, I'm Brandon. I'm a nonprofit fundraiser, but what I really get excited about is connecting with people. I'm fascinated by infrastructure videos on YouTube. I'm also really into design and fashion, and I love live music. How about you?" Roger is more than a tennis phenomenon. He's also a father, a dedicated husband, and philanthropist, and probably someone who's funny to hang out with. We are so much more than our resume. What parts of your identity do people rarely see beyond your work and public image? What do you want to be remembered for? I want to be remembered as someone who has a deep, deep compassion for people and their lives. I enjoy inspiring people to be the greatest they can be and also support them to be and live their lives to the fullest extent possible. I want to be remembered as someone who loves very deeply, is dedicated to my family, my friends, and my chosen family. I want to be remembered as someone who is not sweating the small stuff and being there when it really counts. I want to be remembered as someone who truly loves himself and is striving to do that every single day. The last thing that Roger covered was his transition into retirement and the trust of starting a new chapter. Roger acknowledged the transition post retirement, saying, "I don't know, and it's okay not to know." In his address to the students at Dartmouth, he also highlighted the fact that he didn't necessarily know what his next steps were going to be, what new chapters in life that would present itself to him, but he's willing to face that and be okay with not knowing. It's okay for you to not know exactly what's going to come next for you in life. Let's normalize that fact that life can be uncertain. It's okay to take time to evaluate and assess where you're going next and not to have it all figured out. We spend so much time in our lives trying to make every little thing we do next perfect. And we forget that in this life, we're going to interact with other people who have their own lives to live, their own aspirations, their own goals and challenges, and this will affect how you might show up in the world as well. When human beings are involved, we must inherently leave the door open for the possibility that instability can happen, change can happen, and the possibility to be excited and delighted. There was a time in my life when I was in career transition. I left a wonderful job at the American Museum of Natural History and didn't quite know what my next step was going to be or where I might land. But I knew it was time to move on. I knew that I wanted to move back into fundraising for organizations that helped people facing hunger, but I was unsure if I'd be able to venture back into that space, having had a prior role in hunger relief. But I did not let that prevent me or paralyze me from moving forward. What I did was take a moment to check in with myself, evaluate my values and what I find core and central to myself, and then move into a direction that would allow me to expand and grow and find joy in the next phase and chapter in life. Most of those steps were uncertain. I didn't know what would happen next, but what I did expect for myself was that I remained true to myself and my principles, and I would ultimately end up in the right place at the right time for me. Were there times I doubted myself and didn't think I was making the right choice? Absolutely. Was I always confident in knowing that I was making the right move for myself? No, I certainly was not. But again, I remained true to myself, again, my values and my principles, that if I persevered and followed my heart, I would be just fine. And guess what? If it turns out not to go your way, you can tell yourself, thank you for the chance to learn and grow. I took some valuable lessons from the decisions that I made, and I can dust myself off and try again. Practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes better. Remember, Roger didn't win every point he played, but the act of practice and trying made him better. And in this instance, one of the best in the world. My lights, here are some things I would like for you to take away from this podcast today. Number one, you don't have to have every single thing figured out in this life. Allow for the possibility to be surprised. Number two, you're not going to make every single shot you take or win every point you attempt. The key is that you try, and that if or when you fail and face setbacks, that you continue anyway, because your next point is right in front of you. That next shot, that next opportunity is right in front of you. Focus on being present today with an eye toward the future. Number three, you are more than your pedigree, you're more than your profession, you're more than your position. Show folks the things that they otherwise would not know about you from your resume. Those things that are more interesting than the bullet points on your resume. Aren't you more interesting than that, anyways? I'm willing to guess that you are. I want to encourage you this week to do this differently. The next time somebody asks you what you do, you can answer the question and then continue by presenting something else they would not know about you. That thing that you find interesting that you want to be remembered by. Then ask them to respond in kind. Learn something interesting about them that you otherwise wouldn't pick up from reading their CV. This is not a job interview. You're simply looking to connect with another human being and find some common ground. And boy, don't we need more of that these days than ever before. Here's what I'd like for you to remind yourself to do. Honor your effort. Reset after a loss. And know that you exist beyond your achievements. This is Light Me Up. Thank you so much for listening. And if you found something valuable in this episode, take a moment and give this podcast a like, comment, and share what resonated with you. And subscribe. It really does help get more people to see content like this. Connect with the podcast on Instagram at Light Me Up Podcast, or with me at Shine with Brandon. For updates and to catch up on previous episodes, you can visit lightmeuppodcast.com. My vibe of the week, certainly last but not least, is the Teskey Brothers' Hold Me, live at the Forum. This one is on YouTube, and when I tell you his voice will blow your socks off, I'm not joking. This is an incredible song, and the vocalist will pierce your soul. You will walk away with goosebumps, I guarantee, or at least I did. Until next time, keep shining your light.